All right, welcome to this episode of Codeistas Podcast. Today we are joined by some ladies here in Pratt that have an event coming up next week, and we were just going over the official name of their community, or not community, but coalition, and it's DECA, DECC. I'm going to let you guys explain that rather than me butcher it. So, Terri, do you want to give the official name of what it is you guys do, and then we go through some introductions and dive into it from there?
Yeah. Our coalition is the Pratt County Drug Endangered Children Coalition, obviously here in Pratt that we're based. I'm Terri Liggett, social worker for USD 382.
And then
And
go ahead, Tracey.
Beverlin, I'm the Pratt County attorney. I guess we'll talk a little bit later about how we formed, but part of the
And then up
coalition.
top here,
I'm Pam Ford. I'm the director of the Hope Center and the Agape Health Clinic here in town.
And I'm Schwartz, and I'm a retired communities support specialist for DECA. But I retired in January, but I'm still involved with the Drug Endangered Children Alliance.
and that Drug Endangered Children Alliance, that's what you guys have speakers coming in next week. And that was kind of the impetus for you guys getting a hold of me and wanting to do this show, this podcast, get the word out there of what's coming up, but then dive into a little bit deeper of what it is you guys do and how you got into it. And so if we want to start with that, a little bit, kind of what is it that you do and how did you get into it? Pam, if you want to start or get into that a little bit and let people know what services you guys provide.
Okay. So we are a coalition of over 20 entities here in Pratt County that work together to bring awareness to drug endangered children in our community. It's a nationwide problem. It's a statewide problem. And yes, we have kids here in our own community that are drug endangered. So between all of our alliance members coming together and sharing information, it has allowed us to be able to bring that awareness to community members and so that people can learn what they can do to help. How we got started, I want Joy to start on that.
Go ahead, Joy.
Okay, so like Pam said, it is a national alliance, and they contacted DECA, where I used to work, and asked us if we would start community drug endangered children alliances. So there were 5 of us community sports specialists across the state, and I covered Southwest Kansas, 19 counties. But since I lived in Pratt, I said, well, I'll start one in Pratt because I'll have more time. So I had to help organize the alliance. So I went to Tracey Beverlin, county attorney, and said, hey, would you be interested in this? Because I know we have drug endangered children in our community. So fortunately, Tracey was all on board and all excited. They asked us to go through an academy for the national, put on a drug endangered children academy. So the 4 of us went through that. So I'll let Tracey say why she got involved in it.
Well, I try to stay open to new ideas, and as the county attorney, I deal with if there's a situation where the state needs to become involved because child's health or welfare is at risk. That's when I get involved, and usually we don't want cases to get so bad that I'm getting called or I'm getting asked questions, and so this training to me was, how to spot issues better, how to help the community, help families, help children before it gets to a situation. So it's really just mitigating harm and trying to get better outcomes. And free training, it was grant based, and so one name that I thought of when this kind of was being brainstormed was Terri Liggett, because I knew of all the work that she's done with the school and with her background. So I reached out to Terri as another maybe founding coalition member.
And Terri, you work a lot with the school, correct?
I do, yeah. So I've worked in child welfare, I've worked at the mental health center, and then for the past over 5 years, I've been at the school district. And so when I was looking through the information for DEC, it was something that really resonated with what, I like to do with children and families and helping our community and helping those in our community to kind of understand what's happening and how to better be advocates in our own society that we live in. And so, I was all on board with kind of getting the training and, joining up with these ladies. And then, for me, the person that I thought about and helping was Pam, because I turn to her a lot for what are some community resources and things that are available whenever I'm referring families or kids to services. Pam's usually my go-to contact for that. So that's when I reached out to Pam to see if she would be interested in joining this with us.
And of course, my background is in early childhood special education. So work with Terri in the school setting for a while, and we know each other. And I just have a heart for children and families coming from that background, still in social work, still dealing with people all the time. But this was right up my alley. I know it's a problem. I used to go into homes in across 14 counties. I was in drug endangered homes. I know what to spot. I know what's going on with that. And a lot of people don't. So to bring that awareness out and help kids in our community was the reason I joined.
And as far as Kansas goes, is Kansas ranked one of the higher states as far as drug endangered children?
I don't know about drug endangered children. Unfortunately, we do have a ranking of the top 5 nationwide for opioid abuse. So that's a very recent study. So not proud of that.
I thought I would add, one constant that really hasn't changed during my tenure as county attorney is sync case numbers, child in need of care case numbers. That's about the same every year. And if we can, I don't know if we're seeing fruits just yet, but I mean, if we can kind of do a downward trend of how many kids are either going in state custody or we're having to have DCF intervene in the home because most of the time it's neglect, and a lot of time it's neglect because a parent or caregiver is abusing some sort of substance. So if we can, hit those issues early on, that's much better outcome for our community, better outcome for the kids in our community.
I also would like to point out when we talk about drug endangered children, a lot of times people think of just the illegal drugs, the illicit drugs that they buy on the street. But a drug endangered children can be a child that is in a home with somebody who's addicted to prescription drugs. Like a parent might have had to have surgery and they got painkillers. And instead, it only takes 3 to 5 days to become addicted to an opioid. So if they're on it for a very long time past that 3 to 5 days, they may become addicted to their painkillers, which they had no intention of doing, but then they become addicted and then they can't get it from the doctor. And then a lot of times they turn to the streets to find those drugs that they were on that had a prescription. So it's not just the street drugs, it can be a prescription drug that the parent can be addicted to.
And also alcohol. One thing in working with law enforcement through our alliance that I found to be very interesting was how violent, most of the violent domestic situations they go into, it's because of alcohol. It's even more than the drugs. And so to me, that was kind of crazy. You don't think of alcohol as being quite as dangerous, but we've learned a lot through this. Alcohol is a big problem with kids in the home.
And just out of curiosity, I didn't have this question kind of on some of our rundown here, but what's kind of each of your point of contact with this issue? Tracey, you're the county attorney. Terri, you're in the schools a lot. But where do each of you kind of contact this issue? Where does it touch you, or where do you touch it? Where does it come across your radar and you become getting involved when you see a case arise?
So for me personally, all the time. I deal with a lot of families that we all deal with in our own different professions. And, I'm the central resource hub in Pratt. People know that if they have a need or a concern, they call me for a little bit of everything. And I try to know if I don't know the answer to something, I help them find it out and get resources for the need. So, I deal with a lot of families living in poverty, and unfortunately, it's not just families in poverty, but that's definitely affects a big percentage of people. So that's how I'm involved.
And then at my past job at DECA, I don't know what a lot of people in Pratt know, but DECA is an outreach for alcohol and drug abuse. We also have inpatient services too across the state, but in Pratt, it's an outpatient for people with drug and alcohol problems. So I would come in contact with them, but my job at DECA was just strictly prevention. So I worked with a lot of the communities to get kind of prevention programs going in their schools or just in their communities and do a lot of education. We did naloxone training in case somebody did have a prescription for opioids or they had a problem with it. Naloxone is a spray, a nasal spray that a family member can use to revive that person that might be overdosing. So we gave trainings like that. So I came in contact with a lot of different people in the 19 counties that I served, including Pratt.
Yeah. And then obviously for me in the school setting, it's working directly with children and also with parents. I still do home visits if there's concerns. We'll go out to the home and meet with a parent, looking at resources, what can be, offered to the family. And so there's just a lot of that direct contact still with children and families in our community.
And then Tracey, you're on the law side of things.
And I mean, I see it whether it's with the juvenile child in need of care, you see it a lot even with the adult cases, criminal cases that I prosecute. There's a lot of addiction, there's a lot of need out there, and a lot of times by the time something gets to me, it's in really bad shape. And anything to prevent those situations and intervene is better for everyone.
And part of the intervention and I assume education with what you guys do is bringing in speakers like you are next week. Tell us a little bit about the speakers you're bringing in, who they are, where they're going to be speaking, how people can attend those if they're available to the public, or a little bit about what started this conversation.
Well, I'll start by saying we received a grant last year, an $85,000 grant through KDHE for our 501c3, Pratt County Drug Endangered Children's Alliance. And that monies from that is allowing us to bring the speakers from National DECC to do some good training in our community. Joy and I are both certified trainers with Drug Endangered Children's Alliance, but to reach our law enforcement community is it's just another entity, if you will. It's being able to talk to these guys and work with them is great, but we felt kind of like they could use hearing from someone else besides just people in their community that they know personally. So we are bringing in National DECC from Tuesday morning to talk to our law enforcement officers, sheriff, Pratt County, city county, other counties. We opened it up to our area. So getting them some good education. One of the gentlemen that's coming from National DECC is James Henning. He's retired commander from the Denver Police Department. So his main emphasis with the national people is he is the marijuana guy. He trains on why we don't want to ever legalize marijuana. He knows it all, and he went through it in Denver before it was legal and after, and saw the devastation that's happened.
He was on the committee or on the process that, when it was being legalized and kind of the steps that was taken. And so in his presentation that he gives, which is amazing, he goes through and kind of talks about if we could go back and do it again, in this whole process, all the things that would change, that went wrong in kind of legalizing it in other states.
So he's coming on Tuesday morning to meet with law enforcement and do a training with them. And then later in the afternoon, which is really what I want this podcast to reach people about, at 4:00 at the front porch over here at 115 East 4th Street, he's going to be speaking at our alliance meeting. So that's open to the public. And we want as many people to come as can to learn about Drug Endangered Children's Alliance, but also to hear his talk about marijuana and other drugs. It's very educational, very interesting. He's a great guy. We also have a lady, Gina, from National DECC that's coming to do the training as well. We haven't met Gina yet. I don't know a lot about her, but she's coming from National DECC. She'll be good. So that's exciting stuff for us. And then on Wednesday at 9 a.m., same place, we're having a first responders training for any first responder in any county around here, as well as the community. So anybody that wants to join either at 4:00 Tuesday or at 9:00 Wednesday is welcome to come. We want you to come and learn about what we're doing.
Now, what is it when you have an event like this or a speaker like this? What's the overall goal for who are they trying to reach? When you have someone come talk to the schools, whether it's a think before you post type of presenter, there's a goal that a message you're trying to get across. What is the message of these speakers when they come and do things like this?
I'll jump in for the law enforcement part. I feel like it'd be really good for our local officers to hear from, a fellow officer, because they deal with it every day. They're in the throes of it. And I know it's hard for them sometimes to see sometimes the same people over and over again, or the generational people, they've dealt with the parent, now they're dealing with the child who's now an adult. Really just training and encouragement for them on how they can do their job and what they're already doing better.
Also, we just want to educate people that, there are drugs in Pratt. people are dying in Pratt from drugs, and there are a lot of drug endangered children. I know small towns, we like to kind of pretend it doesn't happen and it's not that big of a deal, but there is a problem here. I also would like to see that stigma go away, where people are like, okay, my family member or I have a problem with drug or alcohol and I want to seek help. A lot of people in small towns especially won't go seek that help because they don't want to humiliate their family, because their family is well known in the community. They don't want to embarrass them. They're afraid because they don't want to embarrass themselves. If they're a business owner, they're afraid they might lose business. So I'd like, I think one of the things that will come up is let's get rid of that stigma so people are more open to getting help for their family member and for themselves if need be. And their children will, if a lot of children are using drugs too, so if they can get help for their kids while they're young, so that doesn't become a problem when they're older, that would be great too.
Well, just out of curiosity, will this presentation or any of the three that you guys are doing, will they be only available in person, or are they going to be recorded or live streamed or YouTube where people can go back and watch them that don't have the opportunity to, or has that been decided or?
Right.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know somebody.
We've talked about it a little bit. Right now we think it's just in person.
Okay.
But we haven't talked to National to see, if they would go along with us recording it. So that might be something we can check into before Tuesday.
Who do you hope shows up for this? And you mentioned about everybody from all ages. Who's the target audience for these presentations?
Honestly, it really is everybody. We want, of course, law enforcement, and they're going to have their own special training. That's why we didn't open that one up to the public. But the other two that are open to the public, we want everyone. We want parents, grandparents. We want people in active addiction. They are an asset to us. We've had a couple people that are in active addiction or in recovery come and talk to our group. And for those of us that don't struggle with it, it's really helpful to hear from someone that does. And we respect them and we treat them with that respect. So we want business owners. All of us have a role to play in helping drug endangered children. If you see something or you're worried about something or you have that neighbor kid that you think there's stuff going on in their house and you just don't know what to do about it, that's what this training's about. So, it's just about helping the children and families in our community.
Right. This training is really open. We've talked about that before, trying to reach business owners because, you guys are the ones who employ, people in the community. And so depending on, different businesses, this is something that business owners struggle with just in, the employability of, the people that they're seeing. It's the same thing when we have service providers going into the homes, and installing internet in someone's home or bug and pest control. You have eyes in places that not everyone gets to see. And so, this is something that is just really open for anyone in the community that wants to learn more about what they could do when they see those concerns.
One other important thing I want to touch base on is, in talking about that, we're not out there just saying, oh, we want to go have all these kids taken out of their homes. And that's not what we want. We want to be able to offer the families the resources that we can offer so they can help their situation. So these kids don't repeat that cycle and aren't being arrested later, just like their parents. And it's really important that the families living in this know that we are here to help them. We're not out there to take their kids. As a matter of fact, that's the last thing we want. We want them to make the changes necessary to have a healthier community. So,
what are the goals then after this? You get this launched next week with the speaker, then what's the rest of the year? What's the rest of the quarter look like for what you guys do once you have a big event like this come to town, and then the school year starts and things ramp up? And what's it look like beyond next week?
Well, you're kind of leading us into the next big deal that's coming. September 25th, we have a lady named Becky Savage coming, and we are also sponsoring that. She's gonna come and speak to both schools together, Skyline and Pratt, to junior high and high school. Be two big assemblies by her. She has the 525 Foundation, and her 525 Foundation, I've made a few notes. She started this foundation after her two sons, Nick was 19 and Jack 18. They were both big hockey players, and the youngest son had just graduated from high school. and they were at a graduation party, and they both took alcohol and oxycodone and both passed away that same night. So she lost 2 of 4 sons in one evening. She's a registered nurse. She's got a great story. It's going to be very emotional, I think, for a lot of us, but I'm looking forward to her coming. We're educating the kids at school with her story. And we're also going to have a community night with her, and she'll give the same presentation to parents, the public, anybody that wants to come and hear. I have not heard her whole presentation. I've spoke to her on the phone, and I've heard through some trainings through National DECC. It's going to be great. We're really, really excited to have her coming. So that'll be a big thing. The goal of 525 Foundation is to prevent another family from enduring the pain of such a tragedy through outreach, education, and support. So we're excited to be doing that. That'll be big.
I think too, when we look at like what are we doing, so when we meet every month, because we do have monthly meetings, we're looking for things that are going on in our community. What are people seeing? What are the trends? Is there education that's needing to be provided? We've had presenters come in the past and talk about foster care, and the lack of foster homes in our community. So we will try to get different topics of what are the needs that we're seeing in our community. So that's a big thing with our coalition is, when we bring all these different entities together, what is everyone seeing and how can we educate our community better with those concerns?
We also do the trick or treating. We have a table, kids can come over and get their candy. And a lot of that is we just want to be seen in the community. So we're not always just out promoting, don't do drugs or whatever. We want them just to see us in the community. So then when people hear us do something like this, or like, oh, I know who those people are, we see them do that. We do a kids fair. We had our third one this past year. The first year we did it, we were hoping for 100 to 150 people to come. We had over 800 people show up.
Wow.
With their kids. Granted, that was right after COVID, and it was the first time people could really be out and do things. But still, we've had over 700 the last 2 times, and we give free food. And a lot of these agencies that are involved with us have a booth and do different things. This year, we did a big board kind of about the size of one of your walls over there, and with our logo on it. And then we had all the kids, we put their hand in paint, and then they put their handprints out, because that is what the logo looks like, is a bunch of kids' handprints. So we have Pratt County kids with that one on there. So we'll be using that. We'll show this off at our meeting that we have next week. So if you have a child that came up and did that, because they were all pretty excited about it. We even had one lady use her dog to put his paw, because she didn't have kids. So that'll be on display too. And we're hoping to display that at different places so people can say, hey, look, your kid's handprints on there. We don't want them to have a drug problem later in their life. So we're here for you if you need some assistance.
Oh, that's great. Do you have any, before we finish up here and get to any final questions, or ran through some of these, but do you have some success stories that stick out along your journey with everything that you guys have done, without sharing specifics or names or anything like that? But are there some along the way that you can point to and, really emphasize what you guys do?
Mm-hmm. So one thing that I always think of when you talk about success stories, we have, since we got our MOUs, memorandums of understanding, through all the agencies that work together for this alliance, our local hospital didn't really have a policy in place of what do we do if we have a baby born addicted, or that we have suspicions that there's drug use by a mom, or this, there's so many scenarios. They did not have a continuous policy written that everyone knew the same thing to do. And now they do, because of our alliance. So Pratt Regional Medical Center are one of the entities that's around the table with us. And having that in place now, everyone that's employed there that comes in contact with someone that is abusing drugs, or is abusing drugs and has children, all the scenarios, they know what to do now. So that's a big accomplishment, I think. As far as, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, in just kind of in conjunction with that, I think that has been a big thing, is it has brought a lot more just involvement with other community organizations together, and it's a place that we're sharing resources and information. And then, like talking about, is something not working? Could it be fixed differently? It's not talking about specific families as much as it is talking about the processes that the families are going through, and can we make those processes for them better. And so we don't specifically talk about families. Obviously we hope to reach families and make changes and improve environments, just in the work that we're all doing. But part of that is improving what we do individually and knowing what someone else is doing. That way, when we hand off from one organization to another, we kind of know the expectations of what's happening with that other organization.
And that's, I think that's still a work in progress, but it's also a success story because part of the memorandums and protocols that we do is so we all kind of understand what we bring to the table to get away from that silo mentality that's so easy to fall into. And I think there has been success with the agencies and different partners that we have really understanding, okay, well, what job is your job and what can you do? Because a lot of times there's some expectations that, somebody can do something that they really can't.
Another thing, like Terri mentioned a while ago, we talked about foster homes, the lack of foster homes in Pratt. Then we also realized that children that go into foster homes don't always have their own suitcase or anything like that. So we were able to purchase bags for students in different sizes, and we gave gift certificates. What else we put? Teddy bears, snacks, different things, so that if the law enforcement has them for several hours before they get placed, the kids have something to do. We've got some tablets that the kids can play on while they're waiting. That the bag with all the snacks and the other little things in there and the gift cards actually goes with the child, so they can keep that with them at all times. So that was definitely a positive thing, even though we may not see how that affects them, but it does make a difference to a child who doesn't have anything with them of their own when they have to be put in foster care.
And that was because of law enforcement sitting around the table with us, sharing that, hey, when we have a kid that we remove, we don't know, like, we don't have any of these things to give them to play with or do. So there was books and just all kinds of activities for the kids. We would have never known that that was a need until law enforcement shared that with us. I also think it's important to share that we got a grant from South Central Community Foundation that year. 10,000 or 5? I can't remember. I think it was $5,000. I'm just the one that handles the money. I should remember, but that being said, they gave us the grant to make that happen for law enforcement. So it's just another way we all work together and write grants and do different things to help each other.
And I would imagine most of your funding comes through grant money from the state. Now, all of it. So yeah, big. If there's anybody out there, Pratt is a very generous community with all endeavors. If there's people out there that would like to help what you ladies do in your cause, is there a way for people to donate or to contribute somehow?
Like I said, we are a 501c3 now. Tracey got that going for us this past year. So we are a nonprofit agency. So yes, we will always accept donations. Those donations could always be dropped off or mailed to me at the Hope Center. I'm the financial officer for the grant, so I'm happy to accept those.
And they also, like Pam said, she and I do trainings. So we love to go talk to anybody that would like a training. We'll give that. We can do it 30 minutes to up to 90 minutes. We also, the four of us have gone and just talked to, we've gone to Rotary.
We met with the docs at the hospital.
Yeah.
So
if a different organization wants us just to come speak to them, we love to do that too. So that's another educational thing that we can do. So we'd love to hear from people.
All right. Well, do you guys have anything else to add to this? Or like I said, big event coming up next week, speaker coming to town. Ran through a lot of the issues that I think you guys wanted to cover, but I'm definitely open to extending this as long as you want to go if you've got more you want to touch on.
Main thing I would like to probably share is we do have a Facebook page where people can stay up to date on what we're doing all the time. I also put a lot of social media posts on there. International Overdose Day is August 31st. So we've got information on that. We always do the One Pill Can Kill fentanyl campaign, the drug take back. So there's a lot of things on our page about awareness. And also I try to always post when we're having meetings, which our meetings are always the third Wednesday of every month at 4:00 at the front porch here in Pratt. And you don't have to be from our community even to attend those. We want every county to have an alliance for drug endangered children. We're not about just helping our own county, right? We want to help, we want the whole state to be better, the whole nation. So people are always welcome to attend that. But you can also follow what we're doing on Facebook.
What's the name of that Facebook page?
It's Pratt County, Kansas Drug Endangered Children's Alliance.
Okay. It was hard for me to spit out too. Okay, well, I don't have any more questions for you guys unless you've got any, like I said, any topics you want to finish up with. If not, we'll wrap things up and hopefully everybody gets out next week. See when this gets posted, but we'll get this up and uploaded. So if you're watching this, we're saying next week, but give us the exact date of that presentation so it's not time sensitive to this podcast.
Sure. So Tuesday, August 13th at
Okay.
4:00 is the first community meeting that we'll have. And then at the front porch. And then Wednesday, August 14th at 9 a.m. is also at the front porch. And anyone is welcome to attend those two.
Okay, well, if that's all you've got, that's all I've got. And I appreciate you ladies coming in and everything you do to help the community of Pratt. So thank you and good luck next week.
Thanks.
All right, that'll do it.